What's up, guys? Anthony here, Special Analysis. Welcome to the video. Hope you're doing well. Going to be taking a look here at the US dollar, Canadian dollar real quick. Profit pack setup. Again, I'm a big proponent of qualifying any trade that you're about to entertain. I don't care what your approach to the market is. I don't care if you're using software, if you're a technical trader, traditionally trading, if you're a breakout trader, if you're a retest trader. I don't give a hoot what your approach to the market is. If you are not qualifying your trade, then you are just recklessly gambling, okay? So let's talk about the profit pack real quick. Two key components, the SA bars and the profit band. How does this work? We're looking for a new trend change. We're looking for the first correction through the profit band. We're looking for a trigger candle to print. Once we identify those components, our entry consideration is at the close of the trigger candle. Our stop consideration is just beyond the other side of the trigger candle. And then we want to employ a method of paying and protecting ourselves as the trade advances. What does that mean? That means that whether you use a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, so on and so forth, risk-reward approach, or you use prior highs, prior lows, or you use daily, weekly pivots, I don't really care what your approach is. What I care is that you have an approach, okay? I'll provide you with a simplistic 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 type setup. But, whatever you're comfortable with, ultimately, that's what you're going to need to employ when it comes to paying and protecting yourself. Now, the protecting yourself part is, where do I advance my stop to? So let's break this down real quick. We'll cover the stop advancement because a lot of people are very confused about that. But that's super important. You have to protect your position, and you should be advancing your stop throughout the trade as it transpires as well. So I'll tell you a little bit of the way that I recommend doing it, or the way that I've personally done it and continue to do it. Ultimately, what you do with that information is up to you. So new trend change identified by this red arrow and the blue band turning to gold. So that tells us that the momentum here is to the downside. You can see we have a high here behind the formation of this resistance area or supply area, whichever term you're comfortable with. A slightly lower high, followed by a slightly lower high, followed by even another lower high. So what do we have here? We have slightly descending highs. We have descending lows. What does that tell us? It tells us that the market sentiment is likely changing. We were in an uptrend, and now we're starting to enter into a downtrend. Very simplistic. Now, profit pack, 5 steps. Here's the trend change, right? Step number 1. Step number 2 is a correction through the profit band. Step number 3 is this trigger bar here. And then step number 4 is to enter at the close of the trigger bar and place a stop just above the trigger bar in a short scenario trade. Now, why do I like this setup, and what qualifies this setup? Well, we identified an area here where buyers were previously in control, and now the sellers are in control, right? So we went from a buying bias to a selling bias. So right here is an area of what we consider indecision. What happened here? There was a battle between buyers and sellers, and ultimately the sellers prevailed. So we broke this area to the downside. We came back and perfectly retested this area of now resistance or supply. Again, I don't really care which term you use. They essentially both mean exactly the same thing. So here's our trend change. Here's our correction into supply, into resistance. Here's our trigger bar, and we're off to the races here to the downside, impulsing and correcting on the USDCAD Forex pair. So now you're going to say, Anthony, all right, I get it. I'm going to take some profit, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 10-to-1, whatever. I'm going to take some profit at some prior lows or some pivots, things of that nature. What do I do with my stop? Well, I'm going to tell you there's a few things that I believe that should be done with your stop. As soon as you take your first bit of profit, your stop should be moved to your entry, right? We're not about to turn a winning trade into a losing trade. We're just not. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Then, from that point, every time we get a new retest of the profit band and a new trigger bar printing, this is not a new sign to enter the market. This is a sign for you to advance your stop right above it. Market continues to proceed. Look at this huge drop here into ultimately the low of this move. Here's the correction back to the profit band, right? So your stop from here went to your entry, to the high of this candle, to the high of that candle, to the high of that candle, ultimately to the high of this candle before you got stopped out. So how much of this trade did you miss based on your stop? This little last piece. How much of this trade did you catch? All of this. That's it, guys. If you can master paying and protecting yourself, the experience that you will have trading, it will be completely different, likely than the one that you're currently experiencing. If you can master qualifying your setups, same thing. You are going to have a different experience, likely than you're currently having. Right now, you're throwing a dart at the market and going, okay, this looks good. I'm going to buy here. I'm going to sell here. Every trade plan should have intricate details about where to enter and why to enter. Same thing when it comes to where to take profit, why to take profit. How am I going to pay myself? How am I going to protect myself? Guys, these are all key components. If you're not mastering them, then you are gambling. This is a business, not a hobby. And if you are willing to put in the time and effort, it can be an extraordinarily rewarding business. So below this video, there's a whole bunch of links. I encourage you to click on them. There's a whole bunch of content. I encourage you to consume that content. I then encourage you to write a list of questions that you have. Send me an email. We'll have a conversation. If the profit pack is a right fit for you, if the investment in the profit pack is comfortable for you, we'll get you up and running inside of 24 hours.